Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, good evening, good night, or good morning to all of you. We are pleased to have people in this meeting from all parts of the world, from different time zones. So I'm Amanda van der Helm. I was born in England, but I spent time in St. Lucia when I was younger. I'm a postgraduate student studying towards a Masters in Fine Art at the Royal College of Art in London. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 229th edition of our ICC Thought Leaders Forum. We wish to sincerely thank all of you who have contributed in whatever way to its success. So this is an ongoing pan-Indo-Caribbean, pan-Indian diaspora global project. We have been here every single Sunday for 228 weeks. So during this time, we have had 1,050 presenters from all parts of the world speaking on 228 topics. This is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Centre, a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. Today, we have partnered with the Amina Ghafoor Institute, which is centered on the study of indentureship and its legacies, led by Professor David Dabadine. In order to continue this weekly program and to make it better and bigger, we are asking for suggestions and volunteers. If you'd like to give a donation, please contact Dr. Kumar Mahabir for details. So let me introduce you to our moderator today, who is Shakira Mohammed. She has 2 degrees, one in business management and the other in education, with a focus on special needs education. She has been a teacher for the past 16 years. Welcome, Shakira.
Thank you, Amanda, and assalamu alaikum, namaste, and a warm welcome to all of you. And thank you for choosing to be here with us. This program is being recorded on Zoom and live streamed on the YouTube channel of the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, and we want to welcome everyone on YouTube at this time. To avoid intrusions from trolls, our IT manager has muted everyone. So speakers, please do not admit anyone, do not unmute anyone, do not allow anyone to share your screen. Thank you for your cooperation. Our program today is entitled The Colonization or Decolonization of Indian Clothing in the Diaspora. Indian garments like saris, shalwars, gararas, and kurtas are proudly worn by second and third generation Indians abroad, but mostly to weddings, religious ceremonies, and on days which commemorate arrival of Indians in diaspora countries. Are these expressions of cultural pride or resistance to Western norms of dress? This decolonization not only counters the Eurocentric fashion ideals imposed during the colonial period, but also allows the diaspora to celebrate and modernize traditional Indian styles, blending them with contemporary global fashion to create a unique fusion of identities. The decolonization of Indian clothing in the diaspora reflects a reclaiming of cultural identity and heritage that was suppressed during colonial rule. What then accounts for the increasing incidence of Western fashion being worn in India? So, ladies and gentlemen, to assist us with those questions, let us hear from our first speaker today, who is Dr. Nazli Alimin of England. Based in the School of Fashion and Textiles at Birmingham City University, she holds a PhD from the London College of Fashion. She is the author of the book titled Faith and Fashion in Turkey. Welcome, Dr. Nazli. You can speak for 25 minutes.
Hello, and thanks for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining today's discussion. I hope we will have a nice discussion, especially on sustainability after my presentation. So you can all see my screen.
Yes, you're seeing it clearly.
Okay. Hello again. I'm Nazlı Alimen, and this presentation is based on the funded research by the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and I held the research with an academic friend of mine, Rohit Dasgupta. He is now based at London School of Economics, and this is a paper that was recently published in Social Identities. It's available online, open access, on the journal's website, and it will be included in one of the published issues in upcoming published issues. So the title of my presentation, as is the title of the paper, Consuming and Retailing Fashion, South Asian Diaspora, Negotiating Clothing Practices, Identities, and Community Making in Glasgow. First, I wanted to talk about, wait, let me close this one. First, I wanted to talk about what fashion and dress mean in the sociocultural sphere. Fashion is a prominent aspect of identity creation and maintenance. What it means by what we dress, how we dress, we create our individual or group identities and reflect them with people around us. And fashion and dress play important roles in shaping individual and collective identities, meaning that who I am as a person, my clothing reflects that, and also my collective identity, who I identify with, who I think I belong to. It's a streetwear, punk style, or a South Asian dress. So because I want to reflect my South Asian identity, develop and reflect my South Asian identity. So fashion and dress in this respect play a significant role in constructing, presenting, and representing individual and group identities. It shows social belonging and also displays specific taste regimes. It's not my choice. I prefer to dress in black rather than pink, or I don't like street style, so I don't wear street style items in order to distance myself from that taste regime, but I like classical elegant styles more, so I consume and I dress in such a way in order to reflect this particular taste regime. And as Shakira mentioned, there is this division of Western and South Asian styles, and Western one basically is the mainstream. And there are South Asian styles available in the context where South Asian diaspora reside. And what we observe is they blend, they may prefer to wear Western styles only for one occasion and South Asian styles only another occasion, or they have the option to blend them. For instance, shalwar kameez set, they just wear the tunic and they combine it with a pair of jeans. So there are multiple choices available in adopting a complete Western or complete South Asian or a hybrid look by blending, by diversifying or blending items. And this study we completed in Glasgow concentrates on the British South Asian diaspora and particularly looks at the South Asian fashion sphere in Glasgow. What we do is investigating fashion retail spaces, shop owners, shopkeepers, as well as consumers, and we discuss gender, migration, religion, and belonging. Okay, arrows do not work. I just need to click on the screen in order to move to the next slide, as I understand. A little bit different than Teams. So let me talk about the methodology a little bit. What we did was the patchwork ethnography. Why patchwork ethnography? Because we couldn't stay in Glasgow, or we couldn't go to the stores for a prolonged time period, because although it was not in the intense period of the pandemic, its effects were still visible, and we were still told about following the cautions, wearing masks, and so on. So we were on the field for limited time periods, like 2 weeks, and then another 1 week, 2 months later, and so on. And our fieldwork took place from March 2022 to December 2022, about 10 months. And what we did was to go into those stores, make observations, browse catalogs. As you can see here, there's a pile of catalog from a South Asian store in Glasgow, and also browse goods sold, take photos with the consent of shop owners and shopkeepers, and ask people for interviews, shop owners and consumers around. And visual ethnography, because as we were walking around, we also took photos, took videos of products and catalogs, as well as window displays around. And another thing I should add here is what we call here is a catalog system, because nearly all stores use this system in Glasgow on Cathcart Road, where most South Asian fashion stores are located. And what we mean by this catalog system is that they do not stock all the goods offered by those brands or clothing manufacturers. What they do is to keep those catalogs. And as a consumer, if you go in, you can go through these catalogs and pick the styles you'd like, and then they will order them for you for your size. So this is the system. So instead of keeping a stock, they keep catalogs and make orders. On the other hand, they also have stocks of dresses and goods. Mostly the catalog ones are for special occasions like weddings, more expensive items. And our field work on Cathcart Road, Glasgow, let me talk about what is offered there in those stores. Basically, South Asian fashion items, such as shalwar kameezes, saris, kurtas, and lehengas. And they were from those products were from different South Asian countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. And likewise, shoppers from those stores come from different backgrounds, different ethnic, religious, national backgrounds. The majority of outfits offered in those stores were ready-made or semi-stitched, as we are all familiar with South Asian clothes being semi-stitched, so they can be altered in accordance with the customer's measurements. And some are sold as unsewn pieces as well. And prices were quite affordable, ranging from 20 to 80 pounds on average. But in terms of the wedding wear, it would reach 1,000 pounds or even exceed 1,000 British pounds sterling. So here are some images we took while walking around Cathcart Road and around. It's the main street, Cathcart Road. Also on parallel roads, there are a few other stores, but basically on this main road where South Asian stores selling clothes and fabrics located. So they sell goods, fashion items, not only for women, but also for men and children. And as we can see, there are items for everyday wear and for special occasions. And during our fieldwork, we also attended Glasgow Mela in June, and the Mela was back in Glasgow after a 2-year break during the pandemic, and we walked around 2,000 vendors selling vibrant South Asian clothing and jewelry, and we attended Qawwali musicians singing songs. It was nice to have this festival atmosphere and observe people, how they dress, how they express their identities, either solely South Asian or hybrid fashions. And I also wanted to include one page to make it clear what I will cover in order. First, I will talk about 2 shop owners I interviewed, Zinat and Miriam. And then we will have a discussion on gender and consumption, then the sustainability issues related to the South Asian fashion. And here we see another store window from Cathcart Road in Glasgow. So Zinet, one interviewee, when I interviewed her 2 years ago, she recently finished her master's degree in pharmacy, and at the same time she was working in a South Asian fashion store, which was owned by her mother. She was in her late 20s, and I had a long interview with her talking about different things about mainstream and South Asian division of fashion, as well as her own clothing choices. And here we see men's outfits on display in the store where Zinet works. Let me go back. Yeah, okay. So when I asked her about if she wears South Asian clothing on everyday basis, or if she mixes them with mainstream, let's say, clothing items from Zara, Mango, and other mainstream fashion brands and South Asian items, she told me that, in her own words, I don't consciously not wear ethnic clothing. They are modest, but just that I think of them as special and not necessarily for mixed public wearing. Zinet told me that she prefers wearing mainstream clothing for her non-South Asian social gatherings or for non-South Asian context. For instance, if she went to a lecture at the university, she would wear mainstream fashions, whereas while working in the store, she would wear South Asian clothes. And she explained that wearing South Asian clothes in a South Asian neighborhood, in a store selling South Asian fashions, makes her feel that connected to her ancestral background, this South Asian sphere. And it also shows us how contextual fashion choices are, our dressing practices are, and shaped by the spaces we occupy, shaped by who is around and where one is. On the other hand, I must note that it's not, she specifically stated that she doesn't wear South Asian clothing, let's say, to her lectures, not because of stigmatization or thinking that South Asian clothing would be awkward, but it's just like she divided these contexts as two different spheres, and for her there was a code switching behavior. So it was the code for her. If it's not South Asian only environment, then she wears mainstream items, and if it's a South Asian gathering, South Asian space like a store or a mosque visit, then she wears South Asian attire. Then I asked her about what she thinks about ASOS and Zara, because let me switch to this one. Here she was showing me, explaining chicken curry, and she said, she went to, a few days before I interviewed her, she was in a Zara store and she saw chicken curry used in their dresses as well. And following that, I was asking her what she thinks about the adaptation of South Asian style, South Asian fashion styles, and also embroidery techniques and so on. And she cited some examples of fashion mainstream brands like ASOS and Zara. And she said that they ventured into South Asian fashion rather than just adopting a few things like making tunics and using certain embroidery techniques. They kind of tried to introduce a South Asian clothing line targeting South Asian diaspora, particularly in context where South Asian population is quite big, like in Birmingham or in London. However, according to Zinet, what those mainstream brands attempted to do was cringe, because she stated that those brands didn't understand the cultural specificities related to religion and gender in clothing design. Such as here, she showed me some examples in her store and stated that they sell South Asian fashions to people from different religious and national backgrounds, either Muslim Bangladeshi or Hindu, Indian, British Indian. But the thing is, here they are displayed sleeveless. But if they would like to have it in a modest way, and she stated that if it's a woman-only gathering, like a henna night, then also Muslim brides prefer to have sleeveless ones because it's a woman-only event. On the other hand, even among women, some woman-only party, for a woman-only party, they may prefer to have long sleeves or short sleeves. Or if it's for a mixed gender party, mixed gender gathering, then they can have necks covered and also long sleeves fitted. So she stated that this adaptability is an important aspect of South Asian clothing that they sell. And in her own words, quote, "Many of our women want to wear Asian clothes in a modest setting, not necessarily wearing a hijab, but wanting to cover their arms. This might be because of the presence of elders or men. When customers come to my shop, they would pick these styles available and then ask us to add some sleeves on them." So this was one thing missing in the mainstream brands, according to Zinat. And other cultural specificities as well, use of colors or not being aware of fashion trends going on in South Asian. For instance, for these, let me go back. These ones are on the left, shalwar kameezes for the summer 2022, and the shop owner lady, I spoke to her, and I liked her shalwar kameez very much, and she said it was the previous year's design. It was similar, but to a trained eye, to someone who is knowledgeable about South Asian fashions, then they can understand this is not the trend. This is not the thing. Those colorful little flowers are the trend of the 2021 summer, and so on. So this is another thing, obviously, another example that is missing in the mainstream mindset for fashion brands. So in the paper, we stated that this underscores the importance of awareness and knowledge of diverse cultural contexts, emphasizing the need for inclusivity and diversity in fashion education and among the design teams of fashion brands. Unfortunately, although we are highlighting decolonizing the curriculum, decolonizing fashion, still there is too much unawareness and lack of knowledge or limited knowledge about diverse cultural contexts in the mainstream markets. And it's not about solely fashion, other products related to cultural issues, I reckon. So I also asked Zinat, all those stores are located in a certain area in the city, and I asked her, I was wondering if they would be interested in moving to a central location and trying to target, or let's say broaden their customer base, not solely targeting South Asian consumers, because several styles could also be consumed by mainstream consumers. And when I asked about it, Zinat was critical she argued that attempting to shift to the city center and adapting their style for a Western or mainstream consumer base, because they also needed to do some alterations, some changes in their stocks in order to broaden their target base. And she thought that wouldn't necessarily guarantee success. And she told me about Cadi store, which had been opened in Glasgow city centre, but a couple of years later it was shut down because it didn't do well. And later on, I was curious because of the price range of that store, Khadi. It's a Pakistani brand, and we also have it here in Birmingham. I'm based in Birmingham, and when I say we have it here, I mean in Birmingham there's a Khadi store as well, and in the main shopping mall in the Bullring, and it does quite well. And considering the price range, it's not much different to the price range of Cathcart Road. However, due to people's regular practices, routines, they are used to shop for their South Asian fashions on Cathcart Road, probably. And later on, we will move on to this, what Miriam experienced as a newcomer into this scene. So it's not the price range, but there is this connection. People shop from the same stores that are owned by first, second, third generation of British South Asians. And another shop owner was Miriam. And Miriam was in her late 20s when I interviewed her 2 years ago. And she recently immigrated to Scotland from Pakistan 3 years previously. Upon marrying a Scottish man of Pakistani origin. And her husband was working as a food delivery person. And she had this small store of hers. Initially, she worked for a beauty salon for about 2 years, and then she opened her clothing store on Cathcart Road. And this was her outfit on the interview day, because I asked the same question to her, what do you think about mainstream brands using South Asian stylistic details such as embroideries or forms, dress forms, and so on. She showed me this tunic she bought from Zara. And it's very much the top of the tunic of a shalwar kameez set. And she combined it with the trousers from her store, which she brought from Pakistan, her home country. So here we see a hybridity of mainstream and South Asian fashion items. And the catalog system didn't exist in Miriam's store. She rather designed some of her creations. She brought some of them from Pakistan, ready-made ones. Designers and manufacturers were different people, but she had her own designs as well. She designed them and got them manufactured in Glasgow as well as in Pakistan. And when I asked her about her dressing practices, what she prefers to wear, and she said that as a South Asian fashion shop owner, she is expected by her customers to be dressed in South Asian styles. And this also shows her knowledge, shows her ability to combine items and her knowledge about the South Asian dress in general and fashion trends as well. So this knowledge, according to Miriam, is particularly important when serving non-South Asian customers, especially those married to British South Asian men. They didn't know which ones to choose, how to combine. So she would help them. She would give her advice, and she said that it was a satisfaction for her that they would find her assistance useful, and they would take her suggestions on board. So in her store in general, I was there twice for 2 full days. I was around and I was listening to her, chatting with her customers, and we were also talking, having informal conversations, and I observed, and also Miriam told me that she fostered the communities of South Asian women. This is the store that gave her this feeling, creating bonds of sisterhood within this temporal setting, shopping setting. So this is what another satisfaction for her. However, as I mentioned earlier, many people go to Cathcart Road, and for instance, for Khadi, they weren't successful by opening a store in the city center because there are many South Asian fashion stores on and around Cathcart Road, and more importantly, they have been open for decades, passed down from one generation to another. So people would usually shop from the ones they have been shopping for years from. They knew the mother, father, and now they continue shopping from the kids who now run the business. So she found it challenging to build a clientele base and sustain her business, stating, quote, "People just walk by my store and go to the one where their grandmothers and mothers have shopped," unquote. So despite creating a sense of belonging and community within the South Asian diaspora, Miriam decided to close her store, selling all merchandise at a 70% discount. So what we see here, community building and also unbuilding at the same time. So there are some regular and loyal consumers, obviously, and for a newcomer, it's difficult to go into this sphere. Then gender issue, because basically our research was not on women solely, but women and men. However, it was difficult to come across a male shopper in those stores. And also when I was taking a taxi, when I was walking around, I was also asking British South Asian men, and they would say, fashion, my wife knows about it. She buys. And fashion it's more like, in British South Asian men's mind, is fashion is for women, and fashion consumption, shopping for clothing, is a female activity. And as I said, it was really hard to come across a male shopper, and we would come across male shoppers if they were shopping for their weddings, the groom shopping with the whole family of his side, and also the bride's side. And another interesting thing is for weddings, women wear South Asian styles for whatever the wedding takes time. It's usually 2 days. They were saying 2 days, 3 days. Women always wear South Asian dresses, South Asian styles. However, for men, it's only 1 day. And for the second day, for instance, they wear a Western style suit. Or in Scotland, in the Scottish context, they also wear the kilt if they feel that much connection to being Scottish. So you have a bride dressed in a South Asian way, and the groom with in a Scottish traditional style. Although, do not picture a Scottish white man, South Asian, British, Scottish person of a South Asian origin. So there is this practice going on. Women are more into this South Asian fashion sphere in terms of consuming, dressing, whereas men, fashion is a frivolous subject, and fashion consumption is for mothers, wives, or like sisters. So they are the ones to shop for men. And here we see Aunt Munira, and all the names I used in my presentation and also we used in the paper are pseudonyms. We are not using the real name, so I call her Aunt Munira. And here she is in a store having the kurta she picked for her adult son, measured to ensure it's the right size for him. So it's one example of a South Asian woman doing the shopping for a male relative. And the final angle of my presentation is South Asian fashion and sustainability. As I said, while walking around Cathcart Road, visiting those stores, we also did some shopping. And here you see shalwar kameezes on the left. And these were made of 100% cotton fabric with synthetic laces and ribbons. So the main, the clothing, the shalwar kameez fabric didn't include synthetic. So I decided to buy this one. And it was a rare occasion to find 100% or even like partially natural fabrics. The issue was like they were mostly synthetic items or mixed items with a low percentage of synthetics. If it's purely natural or if it's purely synthetic, it's fine because in terms of recycling, it's really hard or impossible to recycle fabrics made of synthetic and natural mixture. In terms of sustainability, it's problematic. And at the same time, I was questioning with hundreds of years of textile and embroidery background, and those are aimed for, wearing those styles in South Asia and in other parts of the world as well. But still, human bodies need breathing, and also, what natural fibers offer us cannot be offered by synthetic ones. So this is the thing I was questioning, and when I came across this 100% cotton fabric shalwar kameez, I decided to buy it, and I bought one in black. And this is what happened to my shalwar kameez. I'm not showing the trousers, but the top after 2 washes, and I'm a careful user. So this is what it turned into. Embroideries were broken, and yeah, it was completely ruined. And another thing is the lehenga. And I didn't wash it, or I didn't have it dry cleaned, but as I wore it, the sequins started falling off as I moved around. I would leave traces, and then also the print dye started falling. Here you can see on the, I don't know if it's really very visible, but like once I took an Uber, and I kept apologizing to the driver because I ruined his seat because of the print dye of this lehenga. And it was an affordable price, £40, negotiable. Probably you would say in India, Pakistan, you would just get it for £5, £8, but it came all the way. So, but the thing is, the first thing is, the main issue is the fast fashion business model being adopted in the South Asian fashion system, meaning that there are many items offered at affordable prices, but they are not durable. So they are just trendy items, or like they are just items for you to have this emotional satisfaction, retail therapy, buy them, wear them a few times, wash them a couple of times, and then just throw them away. But what happens when we throw them away? And this is the thing I was questioning, because there is the global identity discussion, and considering South Asian diaspora, they move between their ancestral countries and in the western parts of the world. So they have these global identities and they can feel the connection, because the thing is, if one can say they don't care about recycling, sustainability, environmental sustainability, and so on, because of their isolation from, let's say, African countries where those unwanted items are disposed of. However, when we think about diaspora, they are the ones who are in touch. Sorry, did I go over time?
Just
So
a
much.
little bit. So if you would like to
Okay,
wrap up,
I will just finish. So this is what the discussion is on in this paper, and if you would like to have more information, you can read the paper, and I'm also happy to answer the questions. So this is the issue within this fashion system and synthetic fabrics. And when I was asking shop owners, shopkeepers, and consumers as well, aren't you looking for natural fibers? I want to have a top with a linen top, nice to wear it in summer, or even in winter time, a cotton, so it breathes, my skin can breathe. And they were saying these are the authentic items coming from South Asia. Nobody was questioning synthetic, cannot be an authentic traditional item, but a totally man-made, a product of the 20th century. And
all right.
is the discussion I wanted to concentrate on. So
all right. So thank you, Nasli.
that's all. So this is my last word. Fashion is a reflection of who we are, where we come from, and how we navigate the world. So thank you very much for your attention, and sorry about going over.
It was very detailed and very interesting. We want to thank you so very much.
And this is paper in case you would like to
read
it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it's open access, so on social identities. And if you have any additional any questions, any information, you can contact me at this email address. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much. It is very detailed and very interesting. So what we'll do, due to time, we're going to move on to our next speaker. And this is Ashiria Anirudh, who is no stranger to us. She was born in the Netherlands and lived in Suriname for 11 years and returned to the Netherlands in 2021. She's currently pursuing a master's degree in management of innovation at Rotterdam School of Management, having attained a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and sciences with a major in economics, business, and society. So Ashiria, welcome, and you can speak for 25 minutes.
Thank you so much, Shakira. That was a nice introduction. And yes, I'm not today here to close the session, but I will be speaking. It will be on the sari blouse and the legacy of modesty in the Indian diaspora. So, of course, Shakira already gave a nice introduction about me. I was born in the Netherlands, raised in Suriname, and I'm really passionate about fashion and Indian philosophy, environmental conservation, and also social impact through enterprise. So today the outline will be, I first will introduce the topic, then I will talk about in part 1, the evolution of the sari, and then part 2, Indian clothing in the Surinamese and Dutch diaspora, and then I will conclude. So to start off, the sari. Many might not realize that it has been one of Britain's greatest exports. It's 49 meters long and seamless piece of fabric, and it's draped around women as a form of clothing. It's usually very colorful, and it wraps the whole body, and very popular across the Indian subcontinent, but also in the diaspora, in the Caribbean, and other parts of the world, because it's considered a part of an Indian woman's identity. And the reason that it might come as a surprise that it's been one of the exports of the British is because after colonization, it was actually modified to include blouses to satisfy British morals. And before, showing skin or, for example, women's breasts was culturally seen as normal. And when I first heard about this, it came to a surprise to me, because I kind of grew up with the notion that women should be modest in clothing and covered and considered appropriate and decent, kind of also termed sanskari in Suriname or Hindi. And so that's why I really wanted to dive into this topic today and kind of, yeah, look at it from a post-colonial perspective on how these kind of morals stemming from the colonization are still prevailing in the Indian subcontinent, but also the diaspora. So let me start with part one, the evolution of the sari. This starts all in the Indus Valley civilization. So we go all the way back to 2800 and 1800 BC, but also the Vedic and post-Vedic periods. So here you can see that there were different variations of clothing. So, for example, sari itself, it stems from the Sanskrit word satika, and that is kind of the clothing ensemble that you see here. And the main parts are the lower garment worn from the waist down, and that was by women and men. And then you had the uttariya, which was worn over the shoulder and the head. And lastly, you had the breast band called the stanapata. So, for example, in the different dynasties, these were worn differently, and the breastband later developed into the choli that we know today, stemming from the Chola dynasty, and that still revealed the whole midriff. So, when you analyze these kind of old historical artifacts and accounts, you can see that a lot of the concept of wearing a blouse was actually really alien in the Indian subcontinent. And here you can see in different artifacts that are from Hindu and Buddhist literature and architecture that it was very normal for women and men, of course, to be bare-breasted, and that was due to the availability of textile, weather conditions, and class. So then we move on to the start of the change and more covered attire. And that was with the invasion of the Mughals, Arabs, Persians, Greeks, and mostly that was in the North Indian subcontinent. So this was mainly based on Abrahamic religions such as Islam, and also development of trade, ideas that influenced women to start incorporating more long-sleeved types of garments into their style. But in the south of India, still a lot of the old ideals were kept up until the 19th century. So in the 17th century, European colonization from companies as Portugal, France, England, and the Netherlands started. And here, a lot of people came in contact with their ideals and started incorporating them as well. The British colonizers had the most impact regarding this because they were keen on establishing Victorian concepts of morality, and this was based on also a lot of Christianity. So, for example, there were a lot of missionaries in India, and they considered nudity as a sin. Also, according to those missionaries, a lot of them found bare breasts immoral and titillating. And this is why the British enforced the very strict rules for Victorian principles to be enforced. So all women should have to cover up by introducing them to dresses, petticoats, and blouses. So it has been kind of used as a means to impose a sort of shame bordering on decency. And along with this, it's also important to mention that there was actually a booming textile industry in Britain as well. And as you can see on these pictures, the one that's by Tavik Simon, that's a very renowned European artist, you could say. And here you can see that was captured that they weren't wearing a sari with a blouse. But it's also important to mention that this is kind of a biased form of evidence of this, because it's by a European artist, and of course it's painted from an Orientalist view, such as Edward Said terms it. But on the other pictures, you can also see other types of the way the sari or cloth was bound and worn by women. So in the next slide here, you can also see this was kind of the way the women had to wear their blouses, and also the petticoat, which is the skirt that is worn underneath the fabric of the sari. So after kind of these strictly enforced rules, it also encouraged kind of or influenced the objectification and sexualization of women's bodies in India. Because under the British rule, women were defined as seductive, sensual, and exotic, and this led to an objectification. This also was further amplified when the nation building started during the 19th to 20th century, and the independence was kind of amplified. So during this time, India was very fragmented. The subcontinent is very big, and there were a lot of different states. So the regions needed to form a collective nation. And at this time, so the concepts of modesty and the mindset of modesty was already very instilled, and it was decided by the Indian elite, but also the urban middle class elites and white colonizers, to initiate a kind of reformist agenda. And this included making a collective assigned women's wear, the sari. And that's what it already was composed of, the sari with a blouse, and it was already in very high production. So it kind of, you could say, what De Zoisa says in one of the studies that I read is it was kind of a signifier of conservatism and subversion. And at the same time, you can also say that you can see in this picture, this is a picture by artist Raja Ravi Verma, and during the Indian freedom movement, or the nationalistic Indian freedom movement, the idea of unity was also promoted by painting a lot of Hindu women goddesses in a specific type of sari that you can see here. So that's also a way it was very influenced and made very unified throughout the whole of India. And another noteworthy mention for making this type of sari more widespread is Nandini Devi Tagore. There was an instance in India. Oh, let me explain first who she is. She is the wife of the brother of the Nobel Prize winner Rabindranath Tagore. So it was in the 20th century when she was refused to enter a club under English rule because she was not wearing a blouse with her sari. And this was an incident that sparked up a new way of draping her sari, and she was of high status in India at the time. So this trend was quickly taken over by her peers, Parsi and Gujarati women. And so it also spread further into the society. And then lastly, kind of post-independence in India, pop culture and the Indian cinema, it started thriving at the time. So the sari drapes that were worn by lead actresses, initially also started by Tagore. So they really turned into more bigger trends and they reached more audiences, and that further influenced women's wear. And nowadays, a lot of different variations are created. You might have seen a lot of these actresses and in the films wearing these type of saris, and it has been very influential on the trends in India. And you can also see there's a noticeable decline in the daily wear of the saris and the way they wear it, because it has been influenced to be less traditionalist and more progressive. So that leads us to part 2. Indian clothing in the diaspora, in the Netherlands and Suriname, because I've experienced it in both. So I will first start on the indentured laborers and specifically women. So first, when they came to Suriname, most of them just wore plain cloth without any decoration. You can see here it kind of looks like they're wearing like the petticoats more and just a shawl around. And that's because a lot of them were not allowed to take a lot of personal items with them, and they also were given clothes. So there was a distribution system in place, and women and men, they all were given clothes. So in this picture, you can see, in the bottom picture, you can see 2 women, and they're wearing kind of a lot of jewelry, and that was kind of the only way they could show their status, because a lot of the jewelry was made out of coins that were common over colonial India, and that could represent their relative health. And you can also see they're not really wearing the sari anymore, but they're rather wearing a langa and a choli. So this was related to the weather conditions. They had to work in these clothes as well. And there was not really any access to Indian clothing because they were just supposed to be working all the time. And were also spread all over Suriname. So in this slide, you can see a picture of Indian women and men. And if you look closely, you see that the men, they wear different kind of clothing. The women are mostly covered fully, but the men wear kurtas, some wear trousers instead of a dhoti. And you also see them wearing a pagdi. And most of them are barefoot. So at this time, the sari was mostly substituted by long skirts, long blouses. Ornis are the head coverings that you see. And a lot of this was also just influenced by the distribution system and the economical situation that they were in. So here you can see kind of a stark difference in the way the women and the men were dressed at the time. Also kind of adjusting to and assimilating to more Western styles at the time. And then if we move a bit from that time to the 50s and 60s, which is when people also started immigrating to the Netherlands, there was more mobility. So people were able to afford and able to import more Indian clothing. And at this time, Bollywood and Indian television also became more available to people in Suriname as well as in the Netherlands a bit later, though. And this also influenced them wanting to wear more Indian types of clothing. And you can see in these pictures, these are from very popular movies. So this kind of influenced people wanting to wear more Indian clothes. In Suriname, there also have been a few stores that have been established, and this is kind of what is influencing the diaspora in Suriname and the Netherlands at the moment. But even though there has been these types of influences in the diaspora, they only wear most of their clothing at weddings or birthdays or cultural events. And it's also important to know that mostly these are only worn by women. I think it's interesting. It was also mentioned in the last presentation. They're kind of a signifier of portraying your Indian identity. So in that way, it's kind of a way for people to connect to their Indian identity and also express that as a part of cultural expression. So what I also found really insightful is that during the influence of nationalism in India, a lot of indentures, they also carry that to Suriname. So what you can see, for example, it already started with the nationalism movements and the installment of British and Victorian ideals that the men mostly were adjusting to more British wear, and the women still were assigned the sari as their kind of traditional wear. And this kind of is a distinction that marks the nationalistic movement in India, because it kind of made a very big distinction between public and private world, because so the Indian man basically he got English education, took on those manners, and the Indian woman took on this marker of the sari and more responsibilities at home. And in this way, the colonialism of it was still it's still pervaded through the diaspora. So if we move on from this to kind of what we see now on social media, is that a lot of Gen Z are reclaiming what has been kind of lost in Indian clothing styles and what we're wearing now. For example, wearing jhumkas or draping the saris. There has a lot of community creation been going on, for example, on TikTok, where there's kind of a Desi community, and they all are sharing and motivating Gen Z mostly to just start wearing these signifiers of your culture outside of the context of a wedding or a birthday or a cultural event as well, which I think is a really nice way of reclaiming reclaiming this Indian clothing and cultural wear. And you can also see it in designs worldwide. So for example, this is right now it's a exposition at the Wereldmuseum in Amsterdam, which if you have the ability to go, if you're in the Netherlands, I think it's really cool to see. These are some photos that I took from the website as a sneak peek, but you can see worldwide designers take inspiration from the sari and Indian design. And these are kind of new ways of reinventing the sari at the moment. And now we're coming to a conclusion. So as I said, today in Indian clothing, it's a part of the cultural expression of our diaspora, but the notion of modesty is still very contentious. So, for example, with wearing and exposing your midriff when you're wearing the sari, or just wearing a very short blouse, for example, it's still mostly seen as immodest, but it's also important when you recognize that you have these kind of thoughts or perspectives on what is modest or not, to acknowledge that what has been and how it can exist now, and to unlearn the kind of Western worldview that um, that we've been kind of socialized with. And it's easier said than done, but I think being very open about it and creating this kind of mind shift by being very open about it and transferring a lot of knowledge will help to recognize this and then create a shift and influence people to yeah, wear their Indian clothing with proudness in the next generation as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ashiria. That was an excellent narration from a chronological perspective. So we want to thank you and both our speakers. So now we'd like to invite our audience to ask their questions, and you can identify yourself. Please raise your electronic hand. It is in the reactions button at the base of your computer screen. Yes, Betty, I do agree. Both the presentations are excellent.
Thank you.
So is there anyone who would like to ask questions to our presenters? Please go ahead.
So we had two excellent presentations, very detailed and well structured and well researched. I must commend you both for those presentations.
Yeah, but this is what happens if you say like you can go more than 25 minutes. So I can go even more than 1 hour.
Yeah, I know. Yes, because our
I'm
last
very excited
speaker
about
couldn't
the
make
topic.
it.
Yeah, they were great presentations, really good.
Amanda,
Really
would you
enjoyed them.
say that during indentureship in Suriname and elsewhere, women showed their status not mainly by the dress that they wear, because you stated they were mainly white and they didn't have the different colors and types of fabric, but by the jewelry they wear. Was that the symbol?
Yeah. And then when I was listening to Ashiria's presentation, we have a commonality: men adopting Western styles,
Yeah.
so traditional South Asian styles. And I was thinking, because men join the public life, go out of the South Asian family setting in diaspora more, that might be the reason. And also this patriarchal structure of South Asian societies, you know, like
Yes.
women are more, you know, controlled, reflecting the home style. Men are out, in touch with the outside world, and more.
Yeah, I think that was really interesting. Kind of, I read somewhere the women are kind of carrying this burden of keeping up these markers of our Indian identity abroad in the diaspora by, for example, if you look at the really distinct gender roles of cooking and just wearing the clothes and in terms of that.
Yeah, but in terms of colors, there is also a religious difference. This is one of my interviewees was telling me. Muslims tend to prefer dull colors, whereas Hindus prefer bright pinks, bright reds, and so on. So in this respect, there is also a difference. So they stock items.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. Yeah. I was wondering, the indentured laborers, how they got access to textiles to create their clothing after indentureship. So I was thinking, was it then access that got our forefathers wearing Western clothing? So if anyone can speak on that, you know, because how did they get access to the textiles to create their clothing? And as you said, the different colors, was it based on availability of what was sent to the countries?
Ashiria, I think.
So in Suriname in general, it's more of in the beginning, during kind of the indentureship, it's more of what they took from India itself. And then in Suriname itself, there was a distribution system in place by the Dutch people, and like each month or after each there was a certain specific time frame in which they were giving new clothes. So because it was still during them working, it was just very basic and undecorated. But most of the things they had to kind of adorn themselves were then the jewelry that I showed. And if you look at the later kind of the decennium after that, they had access to more imported clothes from India, but also I think they started assimilating more into the community and into just the cities as well. So they were able to take on different jobs such as tailoring. So they would be able to, yeah, design themselves as well.
Okay, excellent. Nasli, I also had a question for you. I'm trying to find it here. You said, based on the mainstream markets, there were too much unawareness and lack of knowledge from those markets. So what would you suggest could be done to create this awareness and this knowledge of the diverse cultural context?
As I said, it's important. It starts with the education in fashion, as in any other subject. The education needs to be decolonized, and we need to go beyond Western Eurocentric perspectives. So we need to understand different cultural contexts exist. I shouldn't say we, but like our students and also our faculty members. Some possess that knowledge automatically because of their upbringing, living in mixed social environments or their own national ethnic backgrounds. They have this awareness. But like in education, we need decolonizing the curriculum is the issue, and also in terms of companies, they need this awareness as well. They need to decolonize people working especially in design teams and also in marketing, because we also see marketing scandals as well, not only in South Asia but in other countries as well. You hear something culturally offensive, or like this is not the color. For instance, launching a clothing line for the Diwali but using dull colors, using photo shoots with models not smiling, whereas the festival is about lights, happiness, family, eating, fried food, and so on. So this awareness, we need to keep our knowledge updated as well, in addition to decolonizing, making students aware of different cultures and perspectives. It's an ongoing.
It is ongoing, definitely. We have Kogi, who has her hand raised. Kogi, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's not so much a question, but more some comments that I want to make. So last week we had Navaratri for 9 days, which ended yesterday. And during Navaratri, all the temples had celebrations. And irrespective of which province or which area the temples are based in, all the children, the girls and the women wore colorful saris and colorful outfits according to the color scheme for the 9 days. And what I want to share is my personal experience. So I was away from home from Sunday, and I only got back yesterday. And I was in a rural environment because we were having the Oral History Association of South Africa conference. And I was the only Indian person at this conference. We had about 3 or 4 white people, and the rest were all black Africans, black South Africans. And I had to make a choice in terms of the type of clothing that I was going to wear. And it being the prayer time, I carried my saris along. And for each of those 6 days that I was away from home, I wore a different color sari according to the color scheme. And I think in that way, I sort of started some kind of conversation, because people at the conference were probably wondering why was I wearing saris, because normally we wear, formal dress when we go to these conferences. And I think that was one part in which we maintain our culture. So I did engage in conversations, about why I was wearing the sari. Then we brought in the theme and the topic of the the 9 forms of the mother. So I just wanted to share that first bit. And the second thing I wanted to share is that here in South Africa, a lot of men actually buy their own clothing, and they choose their own styles. And, even if I talk about my own children, my own sons, there was this Diwali fair held recently in Durban, and they went on their own and they chose whatever they wanted to. And I haven't even seen their outfits. I think they're buying it for a wedding that's taking place next year. But yeah, so there's that change where the Indian young men are becoming choice conscious and making their own decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kogi. We have Chand, who wants to ask a question.
Actually, I was just answering because somebody was wondering how the people in the Caribbean diaspora countries were able to get hold of the fabrics and other things. So, like I said in the chat, when I was looking through the register, searching for my grandparents' records, then I came across lists in almost every register. They had a list of men who were taken as indentured laborers. There were women, there were boy child and girl child. At the end of the register, every sheet that I looked at usually had about 5 to 10 people who were registered as free, which means that they were not indentured. They had gone to Fiji on their own, and therefore they may have been able to take things with them which they would have sold, which means they were traders. Because in Fiji, what I know is that the shops which were selling all these things were always owned by the Gujaratis, and Gujaratis did not serve in the indenture. So I'm sure that when they were traveling to Fiji, likewise maybe to the other diaspora countries, but definitely in Fiji, these Gujaratis, when they went there, they went with their trade tools, which helped the people to get whatever supplies they needed. Though the supplies might have been like concentrated and not a large variety, but definitely there were. And the other thing that I also noticed when I was traveling in India, that there are certain plants, especially the taro that we call it, it's dalo in English, and in Hindi they call it arbi. Now, I always thought that that was a natural plant from the Pacific Islands because all the Pacific Islanders were eating them. And we grew up seeing them grow and sell and eat. But when I went to Uttar Pradesh, I found a lot of arbi, which is dalo and taro, growing in Uttar Pradesh, especially when I was traveling to my grandfather's district in Gonda. So where did it come from? Definitely taken by the people with them.
Okay, thank you, Chan. So we will continue now. To add to our discussion, we're going to show a video concerning wedding season trends. And we're asking the question, to what extent does current fashion standards in Bollywood reflect our Indian identity? So I will show this video now. And so this takes the place of Neha Karina Dawar, who is traveling at the moment and unfortunately could not be live with us.
Welcome back. So today is the last episode in the festive/wedding series जो मैंने last month October में start करी थी. So as you can tell from the title, मैं आज आपको कुछ trends के बारे में बताने वाली हूँ जो relevant रहेंगे for the wedding season starting like November this month till February March. So during this time frame किसी शादी में आपने जाना है, घर की है, क्लोज वेडिंग है, या फिर एज अ वेडिंग गेस्ट भी जाना है, किस तरीके के ट्रेंड्स चलने वाले हैं, क्या आप पहन सकते हैं, इन सब के बारे में थोड़ा सा आइडिया दूंगी. नाउ बिफोर वी गेट स्टार्टेड, मैं आपको बताना चाहती हूँ ऑन व्हाट बेसिस आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट दीज ट्रेंड्स, लाइक व्हाट आर द रेफरेंस पॉइंट्स. सो सबसे पहले तो आई हैव रिसर्च्ड फ्रॉम द कलेक्शन, जो ब्राइडल कलेक्शंस लॉन्च करे थे सब्यसाची, मनीष मल्होत्रा, ऑल दीज एज डिजाइनर्स, एंड देन देयर इज रिम्पल एंड हरप्रीत नरूला. उनका कलेक्शन भी मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है. सो लाइक व्हाट आई हैव डन इज, मैंने एक तो रिसर्च करी है फॉर व्हाट दे लॉन्च्ड इन द ब्राइडल सीजन, बट उसके अलावा भी मुझे अच्छा लगता है कि आप मार्केट में जाओ और एक्चुअली देखो कि मार्केट में क्या मिल रहा है. आई मीन डिजाइनर्स ने जो लॉन्च किया दैट्स फाइन, बट लाइक व्हाट इज अवेलेबल इन द मार्केट, बिकॉज दैट इज वेयर मोस्ट पीपल विल बी शॉपिंग फ्रॉम. सो व्हाट आई डिड इज आई रिक्वेस्टेड माई मम कि आप एक बार चांदनी चौक का चक्कर लगा कर आओ इफ इट्स पॉसिबल, और एक बार लाइक रैंडम मुझे फोटोग्राफ्स खींच के और कुछ कुछ देखकर बताओ कि चांदनी चौक में क्या मिल रहा है. एंड देन मे बी आई विल बी इन अ बेटर पोजिशन टू टॉक अबाउट, हाँ ये ट्रेंड तो डेफिनेटली चल रहा है फॉर द वेडिंग सीजन. सो माई मदर शी काइंडली अग्रीड. वो चांदनी चौक गए एंड आफ्टर लाइक 400-500 पिक्चर्स जो उन्होंने मुझे चांदनी चौक से भेजी, आई थिंक आई हैव सम फूल प्रूफ ट्रेंड्स जिन्हें आप यूज कर सकते हैं, जिनसे आइडियाज ले सकते हैं फॉर दिस वेडिंग सीजन. सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. फॉर द फर्स्ट बिट लेट्स स्टार्ट लाइक व्हाट विल बी द कलर पैलेट ऑफ द सीजन. किस टाइप के कलर्स मार्केट में दिख रहे हैं, डिजाइनर्स कैसे कलर्स में आउटफिट्स बना रहे हैं, एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो आई हैव लाइक अ मूड बोर्ड फॉर यू all, like all fancy. मेरी अभी कॉलेज वाली आदत चल रही है. So on this mood board, the first color that I want to talk about would be metallics. Actually मैं gold बोलने वाली थी, but I think it's metallics in general. चाहे वो gold हो या वो silver हो, पूरा पूरा लहंगा golden color में है, पूरी पूरी साड़ी golden color में है. Even I saw this साड़ी by सब्यसाची, उन्होंने गोल्डन कलर में पूरी बनारसी साड़ी लॉन्च करी है. सो आई थिंक मेटालिक्स आर अ ह्यूज ट्रेंड, और नॉट जस्ट लाइक गोल्डन, देर आर डिफरेंट शेड्स ऑफ गोल्डन. थोड़ा दबा हुआ गोल्डन, थोड़ा सा ब्राइट, उसके साथ मिक्स करके ना बड़े अलग अलग शेड्स इन गोल्डन काफ़ी सारे डिज़ाइनर्स ने रिलीज करे हैं. और सिल्वर के साथ कॉन्ट्रास्ट भी दिया है. कई बार हम ऐसा कहते हैं ना कि नहीं ये तो गोल्डन है, इसके साथ गोल्डन ज्वेलरी पहनते हैं, बट आई सॉ दिस लहंगा, और मे बी इट वॉज अ साड़ी, आई थिंक इट वॉज अ लहंगा, बट उन्होंने क्या किया था, चोली उनकी सिल्वर कलर की थी और गोल्डन के साथ मिक्स करके उन्होंने एक काफी मेटालिक शेड में वो लहंगा लॉन्च करा था फॉर द ब्राइडल सीजन. इनफैक्ट चांदनी चौक में भी देयर वर फैब्रिक्स अवेलेबल जो पूरी पूरी गोल्डन कलर की हैं. एंड दिस एक्चुअली रिमाइंड्स मी ऑफ द गोल्डन साड़ी जो मैंने नायका हॉल में पहनी थी, और सब लोगों को इतनी पसंद आई वो गोल्डन साड़ी. तो वो गोल्डन साड़ी भी मैंने इसी तरीके के एक फैब्रिक से क्रिएट करी थी. जब मेरी शादी होने वाली थी 2017 में, तो ये इस तरीके की फैब्रिक हमने जाके ढूंढी चांदनी चौक में. और फिर फैब्रिक के से ना साड़ी बनाना बहुत आसान है. आपको एक्चुअली किसी की ज़रूरत भी नहीं चाहिए, आप घर में बना सकते हो. आपने कटवाई, उसको पीको करा, उसमें फॉल लगाई, और मैंने तो साड़ी को ना थोड़ा एनहांस करने के लिए कुछ गोल्डन कलर के ना टैसल्स भी खरीद लिए थे चांदनी चौक से. तो मम्मी ने ना उनको पल्ले में सिल दिया, तो वो बहुत ही सुंदर लगी साड़ी. और उस समय तो खैर मैंने इसको, जो ब्रोकेड फैब्रिक होती है उसके साथ मैंने पहना था. लाइक व्हाई आई लाइक डूइंग सच वीडियोस रिगार्डिंग ट्रेंड्स इज कि जरूरी नहीं है लाइक यू स्टेप आउट एंड यू बाय समथिंग. अगर कुछ ऑलरेडी है, मे बी मिक्स एंड मैच इट टू मेक इट ट्रेंड अप्रोप्रिएट. जैसे मैंने अपनी गोल्डन साड़ी को गोल्डन ब्लाउज के साथ पहनी है, लाइक आई वॉज ट्रेंडी ऑल ओवर अगेन, जबकि वो साड़ी लाइक 2017 की है. सो दैट इज समथिंग दैट यू गाइज कैन डेफिनेटली डू. देन सेकेंड कलर की जो बात करते हैं, आइवरी, वाइट शेड्स. तो इससे पहले क्या होता था, लाइक ऐसा नहीं है कि ब्राइड्स ने पहले आइवरीज और ये जो बेज कलर होते हैं इनके साथ एक्सपेरिमेंट नहीं करा. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर लाइक सोनम कपूर ने अबू जानी एंड संदीप खोसला का बहुत ही सुंदर लहंगा पहना था फॉर हर मेहंदी, और उस समय वो बहुत फेमस हुआ था, अच्छा भी बहुत लग रहा था. बट मैंने तब ये ऑब्जर्व करा था कि ये चीज़ें जो एलीट वेडिंग्स हो रही हैं उसमें तो लोग पहन रहे हैं, बट इज द जनरल पब्लिक, लाइक वहां तक वो ट्रेंड पर्कुलेट हुआ है या नहीं, बट इट हैज सक्सेसफुली पर्कुलेटेड आर एवरीवेयर नाउ। इनफैक्ट दुकानदार खुद मम्मी को बता रहे थे कि आजकल लोग इसी तरीके के कलर प्रेफर कर रहे हैं। सो दैट वुड बी द सेकेंड मेजर कलर ट्रेंड फॉर द सीजन। उसके अलावा पेस्टल्स मुझे लगता है वो तो बहुत ही टाइम से चल रहे हैं, लाइक नॉट इवन लास्ट, उससे भी पहले से, तो वो अभी भी ऑनगोइंग ट्रेंड है। पेस्टल्स, अगेन पेस्टल्स हो गए, मेटालिक्स हो गए, देन यू हैव द आइवरी बेज, एक कलर और है दैट इज द वाइन कलर, जो डीप रेड होता है ना, वो भी बहुत चल रहा है। आई सॉ दिस साड़ी आई थिंक बाय मनीष मल्होत्रा, बहुत ही सुंदर लग रही थी। एंड मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये एक ऐसा कलर है जो स्पेशली विंटर वेडिंग्स में ना बहुत प्यारा लगता है, लाइक अ वाइन कलर। तो दिस इज द कलर रिपोर्ट फॉर द सीजन। अब मैं आज सेकेंड मेजर ट्रेंड की तरफ चलती हूँ। सो सेकेंड हम बात करेंगे कि किस तरीके का काम चल रहा है। जैसे जब आप मार्केट में जाएं तो किस तरीके का काम मिल रहा है इन सारे कलर्स पे। तो सबसे पहला काम होगा सीक्वेंस वर्क का। तो सीक्वेंस आई थिंक लास्ट ईयर भी बहुत चल रहा था, क्योंकि जब मैंने, आपको याद है करवा चौथ पे ये साड़ी पहनी थी सीक्वेंस वर्क की, ऑलमोस्ट 1 साल पहले जब मैं चांदनी चौक गई थी तब भी सीक्वेंस मिल रहा था। और आज भी जो अभी मम्मी जब होकर आए हैं चांदनी चौक, अभी भी सीक्वेंस मिल रहा है। एक सीक्वेंस में ही एक तरीके का काम आता है विच इज कॉल्ड द कट दाना वर्क, जिसमें बेसिकली बीड्स और सीक्वेंस को कट करके ना बहुत ही सुंदर डिजाइन बनाया जाता है। सो वो बहुत चल रहा था, बहुत सारे लहंगे थे जिन पर इस तरीके का काम मिल रहा था। एंड देन गोटा पत्ती इज बैक एंड इट्स बैक विद अ बैंग। आई सॉ दिस लहंगा बाय रिम्पल एंड हरप्रीत नरूला, पूरा गोटा पत्ती का काम, एंड नॉट जस्ट दिस कलर, बहुत सारे ऐसे लहंगे थे जिन पे गोटा पत्ती का काम था, बहुत ही प्यारे लग रहे थे। आपको याद है मैंने नायका फैशन पे वो सूट खरीदा था, वो भी गोटा पत्ती का था। सो इवन ऑनलाइन भी अगर आप शॉपिंग कर रहे हैं, आप चांदनी चौक भी जा रहे हैं, आप डिजाइनर, लाइक एवरीवन इज डूइंग गोटा पत्ती। तो अगर कोई आपके पास सुंदर सा सूट है जिस पर गोटा पत्ती का काम है, मे बी एज अ वेडिंग गेस्ट आप वो पहनकर जा सकते हो और सब कहेंगे अरे आपने तो बड़ा ट्रेंडी पहना है, बट लाइक व्हाट इफ इट इज ऑलरेडी फ्रॉम योर वार्डरोब। तो ये सारे ट्रेंड्स हैं जो सर्कल में चलते रहते हैं और अब वापस आ रहे हैं। उसके अलावा एक और ट्रेंड है विच इज द ज्योमेट्रिक पैटर्न। सो ज्योमेट्रिक पैटर्न्स में काम हुआ है, चाहे साड़ी का बॉर्डर हो, चाहे लाइक वो मैंने एक लहंगा देखा था मनीष मल्होत्रा का, तो उसमें ज्योमेट्रिक पैटर्न्स पर ब्लाउज में काम हुआ था। तो ये एक तरीके का पैटर्न है जो वापस आया है। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट यू हैव एम्ब्रॉयडरी, थ्रेड वर्क, ओहो बहुत चल रहा है। इनफैक्ट एम्ब्रॉयडरी का काम है, उसके ऊपर सीक्वेंस भी लगा हुआ है हल्का हल्का। यू रिमेंबर दैट ब्लाउज अगेन फ्रॉम नायका फैशन में जब मैंने दिखाया था हॉल में, बहुत चल रहा है इस तरीके का काम। Apart from that, floral motifs again huge this season. Actually, floral motifs are like pastels, जो इस सीजन नहीं 1-2 साल या उससे भी पहले से चल रहे हैं। तो फ्लोरल मोटिव्स, पेस्टल कलर्स, ये सब बहुत चल रहे हैं और आज भी इवन नाउ यू विल सी देम इन मार्केट ऑन लहंगाज एंड सूट्स। सो ये हो गया किस तरीके का काम चल रहा है। एंड देन लेट मी टॉक अबाउट कि किस तरीके के फैब्रिक्स पे ये मिल रहा है। ये सारा जो काम है ये कैसी फैब्रिक्स पर मिल रहा है। नेट या आप उसको कह लो टूल, विच इज लाइक अ स्टिफर नेट, इस पर सारा काम मिल रहा है। मैंने जो करवा चौथ की जो साड़ी पहनी थी सीक्वेंस वर्क की, ये पूरा नेट पे काम था। और नेट इज अगेन बैक विद अ बैंग एंड हाउ इट इज लाइक हाउ बहुत सारे डिजाइनर्स ने नेट पर अपने लहंगे निकाले हुए हैं, साड़ियाँ हैं नेट की। इफ यू रिमेंबर अभी पिछले साल और उससे भी पिछले वेडिंग सीजन ऑर्गेन्जा बहुत चल रही थी। ऑर्गेन्जा इज स्टिल देयर बट अभी इतनी नहीं है। इनफैक्ट मम्मी मुझे बता रहे थे, उन्होंने एक दुकानदार से बात करी तो उन्होंने बोला कि लाइक लोग बहुत बोल रहे थे कि ऑर्गेन्जा सुंदर लगती है बट संभालना बहुत मुश्किल होता है। सो आई डोंट नो व्हाट इट इज, बट अभी ये ट्रेंड थोड़ा वाइप आउट हो रहा है, कंप्लीटली वाइप आउट नहीं हुआ है। तो ऑर्गेन्जा भी अभी आपको मार्केट में मिल जाएगा बट इतना नहीं मिलेगा जितना नेट मिल रहा है। शिफॉन, जॉर्जेट पे बहुत सारा काम मिल रहा है। बाकी मैंने आपको बताया सर्दियां हैं तो आपको वेलवेट पे भी काम मिलेगा। सो ये सारे ट्रेंड्स हैं। एक और टिश्यू फैब्रिक, टिश्यू की साड़ी मैंने एक मनीष मल्होत्रा के वेबसाइट पे देखी थी। सो ये एक कुछ फैब्रिक्स है जिनको आप दिमाग में रख सकते हैं जब खरीदना हो कुछ। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट लेट्स टॉक अबाउट कि कैसी सिलुएट्स मिल रही हैं। लाइक साड़ी लहंगा तो हो गया बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट सो इंडो वेस्टर्न इज अगेन ह्यूज दिस सीजन। मुझे ऐसा लगता है लाइक इंडो वेस्टर्न तो कुछ 1-2 सालों से बहुत ज़्यादा ही चल रहा है, अभी भी इंडो वेस्टर्न बहुत चल रहा है। इनफैक्ट क्या हुआ था जब मैं लास्ट ईयर ना जब लंदन आने से पहले मैं एक बार लाजपत नगर गई थी, क्योंकि तब मेरे दिमाग में था कि मैं एक वेडिंग ट्रेंड्स पे ना वीडियो बनाऊंगी जाने से पहले। वो अलग बात है, मैं उसको कंप्लीट नहीं कर पाई, बट आई डू हैव सम पिक्चर्स फ्रॉम लाजपत नगर। तो मैंने ना ये सीक्वेंट वर्क का जंपसूट ट्राई करा था। उसके अलावा भी मैंने 2-3 शरारा गरारा सब ट्राई करा था। इंडो वेस्टर्न लुक्स में 3-4 आउटफिट्स ट्राई करे थे, और उसी तरीके के आउटफिट्स अभी फिर इस सीजन बहुत ट्रेंड में है। एक और ट्रेंड है विच इज़ द बेल्ट। सो चाहे साड़ी पे बेल्ट हो, चाहे लहंगे पे बेल्ट हो, लाइक एवरीवन इज ग्रेविटेटिंग टुवर्ड्स अ लहंगा जिसमें यहाँ पे कमर पे बेल्ट हो। यू रिमेंबर मैंने अंजू मोदी का वो लहंगा पहना था, उसमें भी बेल्ट थी। अगेन बेल्ट्स आर ह्यूज दिस सीजन। तो या यही कुछ ट्रेंड्स हैं विच आई वांटेड टू टॉक अबाउट, और मार्केट में भी यही अभी मिल रहे हैं। मैं ये भी सोच रही थी दैट आई विल, अब क्योंकि दिवाली का रश और सब कुछ खत्म हो गया है, सो आई एम थिंकिंग कि लंदन में और मे बी नियर बाय लंदन मैं कभी जाऊँ और एक्सप्लोर करके आऊँ कि लंदन की मार्केट्स में कैसा इंडियन फैशन मिल रहा है। सो इफ़ यू आर बेस्ड इन द यूके, यू हैव सम रिकमेंडेशन कि प्रेरणा आप यहाँ जाकर देख कर आओ। लाइक आई नो ऑफ साउथ हॉल एंड वेम्बली इन लंदन, यहाँ पर बहुत सारा मिलता है, बट इसके अलावा इफ़ यू हैव सम रिकमेंडेशन वहाँ देख कर आओ। सम थिंकिंग मे बी आई मेक अ व्लॉग और समथिंग कि देखो लंदन में क्या मिल रहा है, दैट विल बी इंटरेस्टिंग। सो दैट्स द ट्रेंड रिपोर्ट फॉर द वेडिंग सीजन एंड दैट्स इट। थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग। आप अपना ध्यान रखना।
So we got some good pointers there for those of us, yes, Amanda, who wish to get married. So would there be any questions? Did it answer our question? To what extent does current fashion standards in Bollywood reflect Indian identity?
Okay,
And
I have.
Sabyasachi is in every conversation about Indian fashion. Sabyasachi, and there are so many copies of his design. Sorry, Rihanna was saying something.
Yes, Dr. Nazli had mentioned the concept of sustainability, but I don't know if it's related to what I'm going to ask, which is how Indian clothes are bulky. They are, it's a challenge to store after use, and women especially, more than men, they don't like to wear an outfit too many times, especially for an occasion, public occasion. How do people, women in particular, dispose of these clothes like the sari and the shalwar kameez and so on? Are there these?
Shalwar kameezes are for everyday wear, not for special occasions. Maybe
Okay.
for some elderly women can prefer, but like what we saw in this video, highly embroidered ones, yes, but also it's the same for Western wedding dress, white dress, and women just wear it once and then it's just away. So I can understand what I was trying to say for everyday items when you are shopping for like trousers and also lehengas that can be worn, like not like going to work, but like for an afternoon tea, meeting friends, going to a birthday party. All shalwar kameezes, women wear them on everyday basis. So this is why I was questioning why synthetic fibers or synthetic mix. Sorry, Rehana, I saw you. Please just ask to unmute. I'm trying to unmute you. Can you unmute yourself?
I will do that. I will. Let me get.
Thank you. I have problems with my internet and I cannot raise my hand.
Okay.
I just called my mom. She's 83 years now. And I asked her how it was in Suriname, but she told me that at the time they imported the clothing and they could buy it at the market, and they made their own clothes and in Suriname, so they could keep their religion and keep their culture there. So, and yes, it's true, they came with white clothes to Suriname with the ships, but after that, after 5 years, they when they worked and they had their own money, they bought their jewelers and they had clothes on the market they bought, and they made their own clothes. So, and in different colors, because they also prefer to wear bright colors and nice colors. They could keep the religion, so they maintained everything.
Yeah, good. So Ashirya, if you can take my question, what happens to the sari? So many saris.
Yes,
Um,
sorry, are you asking me because I didn't fully
no,
answer?
no, Ashirya, because she
She
dealt
there?
with the
Oh,
saris.
Sharia, yeah. And the
Ashirya.
kurti. Nowadays we wear the kurti on a as a modern piece of cloth. When we go somewhere, we wear the kurti. It's it's easygoing, and it's a modern. It has a fresh modern look. So it doesn't matter where you go. You don't have to wear the salwar kameez, because here in Europe, it's the weather is different, and if you want to distinguish yourself, you wear the kurti. So it's very normal. You wear the kurti at school, you wear the kurti at home, you wear the kurti when you go somewhere. It's a modern piece of clothing. But my mom still wears her shalwar kameez, and she's 83 years now.
Oh,
And yeah, she has worn it always, and she doesn't prefer to wear the cotton one, but the silky one, because it's easy
Ah.
to wash it and to hang it, and it doesn't wrinkle. So
yeah.
Makes sense.
I
That
can
makes
afford it.
yeah, I should make pictures of her
Oh, yes.
and share it with you.
so. Ashurya, I think if you can answer Dr. Kumar's question.
Yes, and just to also go back to Ms. Rana's point, yeah, I think I didn't emphasize it enough as well, because the Indians in Suriname, their survival of the culture was far more it survived far better than the other ones, because they didn't have to assimilate as much. They kept a lot of their religion and their clothing and their practices compared to the other ethnicities in Suriname. So yeah, after they were done with the indentureship, they were able to actually, express that more, and also tailor it and design and buy it. And Dr. Kumar, your question was about the this where's the sari now, or I
No. What happens? What do
You
they
get
give
rid of
it
them.
away, cut it up, redesign, make something? What happens after women wear the saris to enough times?
after wearing it one time because they don't want to wear it again, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think this is kind of more. I've heard some accounts of people actually just having a few saris, and I think I'm re-wearing it. But I think that notion of just needing, like, wearing it one time, or for each event buying a new one, is kind of more influenced by capitalism and the growth of fast fashion. So then consumers are kind of like influenced to have a need to buy more and buy the newest trends, when actually back in time,
We make
yeah,
blouses of it, and we make skirts of it, and we make a
Mm,
sharara of it, and we make a
yes,
long
Yes.
dress.
yeah,
I make a long dress of the sari. So if you invite me, I will show you.
yeah.
I made a long dress of all of them.
But
Yes,
Rehanna,
that's true. A lot of
branding,
fabrics are also repurposed.
yeah,
Like, I have a
but
bag
repurposing
also made of
also
sari
on
material.
older generations with younger generations,
Yes.
repurposing, mending are
Yeah.
quite forgotten issues, and this is the thing.
Yeah.
And when Ashirya was talking about, and also Chand, if I don't know
Chan
if
Gupta. Yeah.
Chand Gupta,
Yes.
when
From
we were
Fiji.
talking about, like, where I was thinking whether there was kind of repurposing across classes. You said like Gujaratis were free people, whereas people arriving from other regions. There were indentures in Fiji, more likely, but we can call them working class, I guess. So was there a repurposing of clothing materials, because it's a common thing, for instance, in the UK, those aristocrats would wear, and then later they would pass them to their servants, and they would repurpose those dresses, trousers, and so on. So I wonder if there was such a thing. But nowadays, unfortunately, it's just, yeah, as Ashiria said, it's a modern phenomenon. Like, yeah, I don't think someone would pay lots of money on a silk beautiful sari and just wear it once and throw away. But if it's a cheaper one, cheaper fabrics, then they would just wear. And the thing is, they don't last long either. However, what happens to them, because they are just thrown away, Kumar, you were asking, they are just thrown away. Here in the UK, there are recycling points. And what happens? All the rubbish from the developed countries go to developing or underdeveloped countries. Actually, like as diaspora living in the developed parts of the world, we are polluting our ancestor lands. So this is the thing I was, questioning, and I believe the transformative power of consumers. People in developing countries, they are just having this, good life consumption. They are also players within this scheme. They can consume, they can reach the goods once they were not available to them. But here in the developed parts of the world, recycling is a part of our everyday life. We recycle everything, and there's more and more emphasis, like more and more mainstream brands are introducing upcycling, recycling. If you take your used goods to, let's say, Zara store and other stores, then you get a certain discount. So they are encouraging consumers. Or Uniqlo, the Japanese brand, introduced a mending corner, so you can take your Uniqlo products there to be mended. But when
Natalie, I know an elder woman. You know what she does? The big shawls you buy or you get when you buy salwar, she makes blouses of it.
Yeah, but it's not the case. For instance, the shalwar kameez I bought, I don't want to wear synthetic mixed ones because of health concerns. And another thing is, if a fabric is mixed, natural fabrics and synthetic, recycling is not possible. So, but if you are buying synthetic, then go for full synthetic, then it can be recycled in case. But for the mixed ones, they are just, sitting there for over 100 of years. So as I said, I believe in the transformative power of consumers, and especially in the developed parts of the world. If we inform consumers, if they demand from stores, this is not what I want. This is not the original, authentic South Asian goods are, natural ones with beautiful embroideries, with beautiful decorations. So they can ask for this and push manufacturers, push those retailers to manufacture certain items and store certain items rather than, piling up. We already have ASOS, Zara stuff piling up, and South Asian ones also. But this is what I was discussing in terms of global identities, because for a Dutch person, whether it goes, the landfill is filled in Kenya, probably that may not be his worry, but like someone coming from those countries, I was thinking travel, they have relatives or they have the ancestral background. So we need to pay attention and we need to inform consumers.
Excellent point, Nazli.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. So on that note, we shall end, and we want to thank all our speakers for their sacrifice and for giving freely of their time and their experience, knowledge, their skills, and their expertise for being here on this show. So I want to pass it on now to Amanda, who will formally close the program. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Shakira, for being a great moderator, as always. Thank you all for your attendance and for participating. So this is a public meeting and is being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Centre. And today we have partnered with the Amina Gafoor Institute, which is centred on the study of indentureship and its legacies, led by Professor David Dabadine. Feel free to contact the ICC to publish your books. And we're always open to suggestions and donations. So if you have any ideas, please share them with Dr. Kumar Mahabir. So our next topic next Sunday will be the movie titled BIM. I've actually seen that. It's a really good film. And the legendary leader, I hope I pronounced this right, Badas Sagan Maraj of Trinidad. Thanks to the advisory and planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir. Thanks to the IT consultants Daryl Gransam and Naveen Mungal, who have been advising on recording the program, which will be uploaded to our website, and to YouTube for being around. Thanks to Dowell again for designing the poster, and Raveen Ram Singh for doing the social media marketing, and Mariam Mohammed for producing our TikTok videos. So please visit, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to see all our past recordings. So I am Amanda van der Helm from England, saying goodbye, take care, Dhanyavad.
Thank you.